Well, first, the activities have grown in significant size and scope, and even in terms of geographic distribution. Several more countries are benefiting from the assistance that ALSF has provided over the years. I think that translates into some of the savings, real savings that countries have made. I think there was DRC is an example that comes to mind, where the ALSF's support to the country essentially enabled it to avoid a potentially much higher cost that it would have had to incur. Now, I think over the years, and a point I also made is that clearly the fact that the time that ALSF spends on the money it spends on fighting vulture funds has decreased significantly is a good thing. I mean, some progress has been made there, freeing up the resources for the capacity building, for support for negotiating contracts, for training, etc. And so this has been the trend over the past several years, and it's something I'm very happy to see. Absolutely, absolutely. Indeed, when in 2015, when the world met in Addis Ababa and talked about moving from billions to trillions, of course that gap from the billions to trillions was going to be expected to be made up for in the private sector. And when you talk about private sector, of course, talking about investors and looking at risks of investments. So I think on a general note, what ALSF does is actually help to also reduce these risks, or at least the perceived risks of investing in the continent. And with that comes maybe better pricing even that the continent will get in terms of rates, etc., on loans and borrowings that they make. So that's one dimension. But just the overall increase in the business climate. I mean, ALSF, I'm not saying ALSF alone does that. ALSF in combination with all the other activities in the countries helps to do that, to build capacity. So I think I would maybe try to boil it down to just what ALSF does to enhance the confidence of investors. I spoke, for example, about renegotiation risk. I think if there's a sense that the contracts have been fairly, or that they are fair contracts, I think they stand the test of time better, and parties are more comfortable that they've entered into something that will be respected over its lifetime, particularly when you talk about long-lived assets like infrastructure. Now, if I may add very quickly, over the next several years, as you know, Africa has a major infrastructure program ahead of it, and this is why it's important that, for example, the work that ALSF does in for example, the power purchase agreements and giving guidance on that, there's a booklet already on that, helps even standardize some of these things, which is very important for development. To provide absolute full support to the ALSF. It is a wonderful instrument. It's grown in size and even sophistication, and to really continue to promote ALSF as one of the important instruments, or one of the tools in our toolkit to really help advance the development of this continent. I would also advise my successor to, of course, work very closely with the management and the management board of ALSF to realize these objectives. It's really a team effort, and I expect my successor to do just that. And then finally, because the ALSF is hosted at the African Development Bank, that link with the African Development Bank and the support that the African Development Bank group, I should say, provides to ALSF is one that I believe my successor will continue to strengthen. So these are just a few words that I would pass on to my successor.